The Galactic Council chamber on Orcs was a marvel of architecture and diplomacy. Its vast, circular hall was filled with representatives from hundreds of worlds, tall and short, scaled and feathered, shining with iridescent colors or cloaked in thick armor. At the center sat the council's speaker, a dignified figure whose calm gaze swept over the assembled delegates. Among them, humans were a small but unmistakable presence. Earth's delegation stood tall and firm, clad in simple, yet functional attire that reflected their planet's practical spirit. Elena Vasquez, Earth's chief diplomat, surveyed the room with a mixture of determination and unease. This summit was humanity's chance to prove they belonged in the galactic order. After decades of rapid expansion beyond the solar system, exploring, colonizing, and advancing in technology, humans sought official recognition and cooperation, but the Council was wary. Older civilizations had grown complacent in their dominance. The humans' boldness, their seemingly reckless willingness to push boundaries, unsettled many. Some saw them as disruptors, unpredictable and dangerous. Others resented Earth's sudden rise from a relatively young planet. The talks began with polite greetings and formalities. Elena spoke eloquently of Earth's desire for peaceful coexistence and mutual prosperity. But as discussions moved to resource rights, border claims, and governance, tensions grew. A representative from the Ivran Collective, a reptilian species with cold, calculating eyes, was the first to challenge humanity's proposals. Your species acts as though the galaxy is a playground, the Ivran delegate said, voice sharp and dismissive. You ignore centuries of tradition and diplomacy. You jeopardize the balance we have maintained. Elena replied, We seek not to upset the balance but to share it fairly. Our expansion is not conquest, but survival and growth, just as it has always been for any civilization. The room grew colder. Disagreements over laws governing resource use spiraled into accusations of arrogance and disrespect. Cultural misunderstandings compounded the problems. What humans considered openness was perceived as disrespect for protocol. What older species valued as tradition felt like stagnation to humans. Behind closed doors, whispers among the council members grew darker. A secret. Faction believed humanity must be controlled or removed. Days passed, and the talks stalled. Frustration mounted. Elena's team worked tirelessly to bridge gaps, but it was clear the Council's patience had limits. In a hidden chamber, the faction's leader, a stern figure known only as the High Chancellor, addressed his allies. Humanity cannot be allowed to grow unchecked, he declared. They threaten our order. We have tried diplomacy and reason. Both have failed. It is time to act decisively. The faction began drafting a covert resolution to remove humanity from the Council's influence by force if necessary. The measure would remain secret, known only to the highest-ranking members. Meanwhile, unaware of the brewing storm, humanity prepared to return to Earth with hopes tempered by disappointment, but still hopeful for future dialogue. As Elena packed her documents, a quiet voice reached her, a young aide, breathless and urgent. Ambassador Vasquez, you need to see this. On a private monitor, encrypted communications revealed fragments of the Council's secret plan, a purge of human colonies, a fleet gathering in the shadow of nearby star systems. Elena's heart sank. The Council had not only rejected humanity's plea, it planned to erase them. She confronted her team. We must warn Earth and prepare for what's coming, but many dismissed the warning as impossible. The Council was a diplomatic body, not a military aggressor. Surely, there had been a mistake, yet the truth was undeniable. As the summit closed, the Galactic Council's facade of unity concealed a deadly intent. Back on Earth, life continued under an unshaken sky, unaware that forces beyond their world had marked them for extinction. The fragile hope for peace had been shattered. Earth's skies were a brilliant blue, and cities buzzed with the ordinary rhythm of life. Children laughed in parks, markets, thrived with vibrant colors and scents, and scientists in sprawling labs worked tirelessly toward new discoveries. To most, the Galactic Council's summit had been a political drama far away, a distant concern for diplomats and leaders. Elena Vasquez sat in a small office within the United Earth Space Agency headquarters, staring at the screen before her. The encrypted message she had received at the summit replayed in her mind. The Council's secret plan to erase humanity's presence in the galaxy. The warning was clear, but convincing others was far more difficult. She picked up the phone and dialed quickly. "Marcus, I need a full analysis on Council fleet movements and possible threats to Earth's colonies. This isn't just politics anymore." Marcus, the head of Earth's military intelligence, was the only one she trusted with the truth. "I'll get the best eyes on it, Elena, but you know how this will look. Paranoia, fear-mongering." Elena didn't reply. She knew the world wasn't ready to hear that their greatest allies had turned against them. Meanwhile, the Council's warships stirred in shadowed star systems, engines humming quietly as massive fleets gathered. Their armaments were unlike anything humanity had faced, silent, efficient, designed for overwhelming force. Back on Earth, the government announced celebrations for what it called a new era of cooperation, a hopeful message meant to calm the public after the difficult summit. Humanity was preparing to host the first interstellar cultural exchange, a symbol of unity and peace. Yet beneath the surface, tension grew. A group of human diplomats and scientists, led by Elena, worked in secret. They pored over intercepted transmissions and scanned star charts for signs of fleet movements. The more they uncovered, the more alarming the picture became. But warnings went unheeded. Leaders dismissed concerns as overcautious or worse, destructive to fragile diplomacy. The media, hungry for positive stories, spun the summit as a step toward acceptance, ignoring the darker realities. Elena stood before a panel of world leaders, her voice steady but urgent. "The Council's intentions are clear. They see us as a threat, not a partner. We must prepare our defenses and inform the public." A skeptical minister leaned forward. "You're asking us to believe a galactic alliance is preparing to destroy Earth? That sounds like science fiction." "It is not," Elena insisted. "And if we do nothing, we risk losing everything." Still, her words fell on deaf ears. In the following weeks, human scientists continued their work, unaware that Council scouts monitored their progress. Advances in propulsion, energy shields, and communications reached new heights, yet Earth's defenses were still uncoordinated and vulnerable. In a hidden lab, Amina Okoro, a brilliant engineer, tested a new energy shield prototype. "If we can deploy this on a large scale, we might withstand an initial strike," she told her team. Jin Lee, a pilot who had volunteered for experimental missions, nodded. "We need every edge we can get. They won't give us warning." News. From distant human colonies filtered in. Reports of strange signals and unidentified ships lurking nearby. The colonies grew anxious but maintained contact with Earth, trusting that reinforcements or support would come if needed. Elena's team prepared contingency plans, evacuation routes, underground shelters, and rapid response units were outlined in confidential documents. They hoped never to use them. On the surface, life marched on. Families gathered for festivals, scientists published groundbreaking papers, and explorers prepared for missions beyond the solar system. Yet, the shadow of the Council's silent fleet loomed closer every day. Elena gazed at the stars one night. the glow of distant suns filling the sky. She wondered how many more warnings would go unheeded before the storm broke. Then, with a distant shudder beneath Earth's crust and a sudden loss of satellite signals, the world would know. The calm before the storm was coming to an end. The morning dawned clear and bright over Earth, the sun casting warm light on cities bustling with life. People went about their routines, unaware of the ominous forces gathering silently in orbit. Satellites hummed steadily, relaying communication and weather data, while explorers prepared for new journeys beyond the stars. Suddenly, without warning, the sky shattered. A flash of light streaked across the atmosphere, followed by a series of explosions that rocked key space stations and orbital defense platforms. Communications instantly faltered. Earth's colonies far beyond the solar system reported similar devastation. Outposts destroyed, supply lines severed, and vital infrastructure crippled. The Galactic Council had acted. In the midst of confusion, alarms blared in command centers. Across the planet, Earth's defense forces scrambled to respond, but their systems were caught off guard. Council fleets, far larger and more advanced than anticipated, unleashed relentless precision strikes designed to disable rather than annihilate, yet effective enough to cause widespread chaos. Elena Vasquez stood amidst the controlled chaos of Earth's Space Defense Command, her face tense but resolute. The moment she feared had come, the Council's intent to erase humanity from the galactic stage, now undeniable. "We knew they would come," she said quietly to her team. "Now we show them what humanity is made of." The initial shock was devastating. Communications blackout left isolated colonies stranded. Energy grids faltered in major cities, throwing them into darkness. Panic threatened to unravel society's fabric, but the human spirit held fast. Across the planet, civilians rallied to support emergency services. Engineers worked around the clock to repair damaged systems. Soldiers, scientists, and volunteers alike banded together, transforming chaos into coordinated action. Jin Lee, flying sorties in Earth's remaining fighters, pushed his craft beyond limits. His squadron became legends overnight, striking council ships with daring maneuvers, exploiting weaknesses in their technology. Meanwhile, Amina Okoro led teams developing improvised defenses, adapting captured council technology to create shields and weapons that could stand up to the invaders. Word spread quickly of unexpected human resilience. Stories of ordinary people performing extraordinary feats, repair crews restoring power under fire, medical teams saving lives amid ruins, communities sharing resources despite scarcity, inspired hope and unity. Council commanders, confident in their overwhelming power, were surprised. The humans fought not just with technology, but with an unyielding will. Their ability to adapt rapidly disrupted council plans. On Earth's surface, Elena addressed the world, her voice broadcast across networks, steady and strong. "We face a grave threat," she said. "But we are not defeated. We are united, and we will fight for our future." As the first wave of council attacks ebbed, Earth's resistance began to form, a coordinated network of fighters, strategists, and civilians determined to protect their home. At a remote colony on Proxima Centauri b, survivors gathered to relay intelligence and repair communications. Their transmissions reached Earth, offering crucial insights into Council fleet movements. In the shadow of disaster, humanity found its strength. The Council's strike had intended to crush hope and resistance. Instead, it forged a new resolve. From the ashes of destruction rose a fierce determination, a message that would echo throughout the galaxy. Humanity was not a species to be erased. The smoke from the shattered satellites and ruined outposts still hung in the sky, but the world had changed. Earth was no longer just a planet. It was a symbol of defiance, a beacon in the vast coldness of space. What the Galactic Council had hoped to crush had instead awakened a force no one had anticipated. In underground bunkers, converted factories, and hidden labs, the resistance began to take shape. Elena Vasquez stood before a gathering of leaders, scientists, and strategists, faces marked by exhaustion, determination, and the weight of responsibility. The fragile unity that had long eluded humanity was now forged in the heat of survival. "We cannot meet force with force alone," Elena said, her voice firm. "Our strength lies in innovation, in adaptability, and in the unbreakable will of our people. We will fight smart." Her words were met with nods and murmurs of agreement. In a vast facility repurposed from an old research center, Amina Okoro worked alongside engineers and alien technology specialists. They studied fragments of Council weaponry and shield designs, reverse engineering components to create new defensive systems. "This technology is sophisticated," Amina explained to her team. "But it's not infallible. We can build on it. Make it ours." Her fingers danced over holographic schematics, highlighting points where human ingenuity could improve the designs. Soon, prototypes of energy shields capable of withstanding Council beam weapons began to take shape. Meanwhile, on the military front, Jin Li trained pilots in unconventional tactics. Human fighters were smaller and less advanced than the Council's warships, but they were faster, more agile, and unpredictably clever. "We don't have to match their strength," Jin told his squadron. "We just have to outthink them." Their tactics focused on hit-and-run strikes, exploiting Council patrol blind spots, and using the terrain of asteroid fields and nebulae for cover. Each successful mission boosted morale and disrupted enemy supply lines. Elsewhere, the resistance spread beyond Earth's borders. Colonies that had survived the initial attack became hubs of rebellion. Using salvaged Council tech and local resources, they built fortified outposts and communication relays, forming a network to coordinate efforts across light years. One such leader was Kira, a former diplomat-turned-resistance commander on a moon colony near Alpha Centauri. Her messages back to Earth were filled with reports of bravery and hope. "We are not alone," she said in a transmission. "The galaxy is watching." Within Council ranks, frustration grew. The overwhelming force they expected was meeting, a human response unlike anything they had prepared for. A faction within the Council began to question the wisdom of total annihilation. Some advocated for renewed talks, but the High Chancellor's faction remained adamant. Humanity must be stopped. In this uncertainty, the resistance found an unexpected advantage. Messages intercepted from dissenting Council members revealed cracks in their unity. Elena and her advisors used this intelligence carefully, reaching out in secret to potential allies within the Council's own ranks. At home, Earth's population endured hardships with resilience. Power shortages, food rationing, and constant alerts tested their resolve. But communities came together, neighbors sharing resources, volunteers rebuilding damaged infrastructure, and families standing strong. Public broadcasts shared stories of heroism and hope, inspiring everyone to contribute in whatever way they could. One evening, as Earth's twin moons rose over the horizon, Elena addressed the world. "This is not just a fight for survival," she said. "It is a fight for who we are, our values, our spirit, and our place in the stars. We will not be broken." Her words echoed across the planet, reaching every corner and every heart. The Galactic Council had sent their fleet to erase humanity, expecting swift victory. Instead, they had awakened a resistance that would not only fight, but change the course of galactic history. Humanity was no longer just defending a planet. They were forging a future. The galaxy was vast and full of secrets, some hidden, some forgotten, and some deliberately kept in shadow. As humanity's resistance grew stronger, it did not go unnoticed by every species. Among the countless civilizations under the Galactic, Council's rule, a few harbored quiet resentment. Victims of the Council's rigid hierarchy, oppressed for centuries, watching from the sidelines as the powerful dictated the fate of countless worlds. One such species was the Varathi, a reptilian race with emerald scales and eyes sharp as flint. They had once been a proud warrior people, but after decades of council-imposed restrictions, their fleets were reduced, their trade routes cut off, and their voices silenced. The council's harsh measures had turned the Varathi from allies to outcasts. Deep within the dense jungles of Varath Prime, their homeworld, a secret council of Varathi leaders convened. Their most trusted envoy, Lyra Khan, studied the transmission from Earth's resistance carefully. The courage, unity, and innovation of humanity had broken through the council's propaganda and sparked hope. Lyra Khan spoke with conviction. "The council's grip weakens. The humans are not the reckless brutes we were told. They fight with honor, with heart. This is our moment. Together we can challenge the old order." The Varathi had much to offer. Their stealth technology was unmatched, their knowledge of council systems deep, and their desire for freedom unyielding. After long deliberation, they decided to make contact. On Earth, Elena Vasquez received the encrypted message with cautious hope. The first contact with a species willing to ally against the Galactic Council was a turning point. The Varathi offered critical intelligence, detailed maps of Council fleet movements, vulnerabilities in their supply chains, and access to advanced cloaking technology. "This alliance changes everything," Elena told her team. "We no longer fight alone." The collaboration was not easy. Centuries of mistrust between species required patience and diplomacy. Cultural differences sparked misunderstandings, and old fears threatened to derail progress. Lyra Khan visited Earth in secret, meeting with Elena and other leaders. They shared stories of oppression and resistance, finding common ground in their shared desire for freedom. "The Council rules through fear," Lyra Khan said, "but fear can be overcome." Together, humans and Varathi engineers worked to integrate their technologies, enhancing ships with new stealth capabilities and upgrading weapon systems. Pilots trained in combined tactics, blending human ingenuity with Varathi precision. As the alliance grew, it inspired others. News of the humans' defiance and the Varathi's bold stand spread quietly through the galaxy. Other oppressed worlds began to question their loyalty to the Council. Back on Earth, the Resistance used this momentum to plan coordinated strikes. Using the Varathi's stealth ships, human forces launched surprise attacks on Council supply depots and communication hubs, crippling their ability to coordinate assaults on human colonies. One daring mission, led by Jin Lee, disabled a key Council command ship orbiting a distant asteroid field. The victory was celebrated across resistance networks, a symbol of hope and proof that the Council was not invincible. The Council, meanwhile, found itself beset on multiple fronts. The unity it had maintained was fracturing under the pressure of internal dissent and external attacks. The High Chancellor's grip on power weakened as voices called for negotiation, warning that the war might destroy the very fabric of the Galactic Alliance. Yet, the Council's forces pushed forward, unwilling to abandon their goal. For humanity and their new allies, the battle was far from over, but the tide was shifting. Elena stood once more before the Global Resistance Command. Her eyes shone with quiet determination. "We have shown the galaxy our strength," she said. "Now we show them our resolve. Together with our allies, we will turn the Council's darkness into light." The Alliance from the shadows had emerged, and, with it, a new chapter in the fight for freedom. The darkness of space had never felt so alive. Fleets of ships moved silently between stars, weaving intricate patterns of attack and defense. The war that had once seemed distant, a threat lurking beyond Earth's atmosphere, had now spread across the galaxy. Human and Varathi forces flew side by side, their combined fleets growing with each victory. They had become more than survivors. They were warriors of a new era, champions of freedom against a vast empire that sought to extinguish them. Jin Lee stood on the bridge of the Valiant, Earth's most advanced warship, gripping the controls as the fleet approached a crucial council outpost near the distant star system of Halion. The station was a vital supply hub, and its destruction would sever council reinforcements for months. "Status report," Jin called, voice calm but intense. "Shields at full strength," replied Commander Amina Okoro, overseeing the ship's defensive systems. "Stealth modules operational on all attack craft. We're ready." "Good. Let's remind the Council that Earth fights for its future." The battle plan was clear but risky. The fleet would use Varathi cloaking technology to bypass the main defenses, striking quickly and retreating before the Council could respond. As the Valiant and its escorts slipped through the nebulae surrounding Halion, space exploded in sudden light. Council patrol ships detected the fleet's approach, opening fire with plasma beams and missile barrages. But the human Varathi tactics confused their sensors. Fighters darted through asteroid fields and behind gas clouds, launching precision strikes that shattered the outpost's weapon arrays. Below, crews on the outpost scrambled to repair damage, but the onslaught was relentless. Jin led his squadron in daring maneuvers, disabling power generators and communication arrays. Each pilot knew the stakes. Their victory could cripple the Council's war effort and buy precious time for the resistance. The Council, shaken by the unexpected ferocity, ordered reinforcements, but by the time they arrived, the damage was done. The outpost's destruction echoed through Council communications as a significant blow. Back on Earth, celebrations were tempered by the knowledge that the fight was far from over. Every victory came with cost. Lives lost, homes destroyed, futures uncertain. Yet, hope burned brighter than ever. The battle for the stars was changing the balance of power. Other species within the Council's alliance began questioning their loyalty. Whispers of rebellion grew louder in distant systems, inspired by humanity's resilience and the Varathi's courage. Elena Vasquez received reports from diplomatic channels, messages from Council members urging peace talks, warnings of a possible civil war within the alliance. She addressed the Global Resistance Command once more. "The Council's foundation is cracking. We must press our advantage, but also prepare to shape the galaxy we want to see, one built on respect and cooperation." In secret, Elena and Lyricon held discussions with dissident Council members, the hope for a future where humanity and all species could thrive together became more tangible. But the High Chancellor refused to yield. He intensified the Council's military campaigns, launching brutal strikes against human colonies and suspected rebel worlds. The Resistance responded with courage and unity. Supply lines were protected by fast, agile fleets, communications networks grew more secure, and new alliances formed with other species tired of the Council's dominance. On a quiet night, as stars twinkled overhead, Elena reflected on the journey from fragile diplomacy to open war. Humanity's place in the galaxy was no longer uncertain. The Gao had become a force, one that refused to be erased. The battle for the stars was not just a fight for survival. It was a fight for identity, for freedom, and for the right to define their own destiny. The Galactic Council's once unified front was crumbling from within. In the vast, glittering chambers of the Council capital, the High Chancellor paced restlessly. Reports from the front lines painted a grim picture, human resistance growing, stronger, unexpected alliances forming, and whispers of dissent among Council members. His iron grip on power, once unchallenged, was beginning to slip. "The humans defy us at every turn," he growled to his inner circle. "And now traitors rise among our own. This cannot continue." Across the Council's governing body, factions emerged. Some called for peace talks, recognizing the futility of endless war. Others, loyal to the High Chancellor's vision, pushed for even harsher measures: total eradication of the human threat. Among the dissenters was Ambassador Rylus, a respected council elder whose homeworld had suffered under the council's strict policies for decades. He watched the conflict with growing unease. "They fight not out of conquest," Rylus said quietly during a secret meeting of rebels, "but for survival and dignity. We ignore their spirit at our peril." The rebels worked covertly to aid humanity's cause, passing intelligence and sabotaging council operations. Their actions became a thorn in the council's side. On Earth, Elena Vasquez received encrypted transmissions from these secret allies within the council. Their information was invaluable: plans for upcoming assaults, fleet movements, and weaknesses in council defenses. "It's proof the council's unity is fragile," Elena told her closest advisors. "We can exploit this to bring an end to the war." Yet, victory was not assured. The High Chancellor, desperate to maintain control, unleashed his most devastating weapon: a massive battle station orbiting the heart of the Milky Way, capable of annihilating entire star systems. The station's arrival was a stark warning. Humanity and their allies faced annihilation if they did not surrender. In response, the Resistance prepared for their most daring operation yet. A coalition fleet composed of human, Varathi, and rebel council ships assembled in secret near a distant star system. Their mission was clear but perilous: to infiltrate and disable the battle station before it could be brought to bear on inhabited worlds. Jin Lee led the strike force, his resolve steeled by years of conflict. "This is our moment," he said. "For Earth, for the colonies, for every world under council oppression." The mission's risks were immense. The battle station was heavily defended, with advanced weapons and shielding systems. Failure would mean the destruction of the Resistance's best hope. But success would change the balance of power forever. As the fleet approached the station, tension gripped every crew member. Each knew the stakes. Elena watched the live feed from Earth's command center, her heart pounding. The fate of humanity and their allies rested on this mission. Inside the station, the Resistance teams worked swiftly, disabling defense grids and planting charges to cripple the massive weapon. In the final moments, Jin faced the station's core. With a decisive strike, he triggered the explosion that shattered the station's defenses. The blast rippled through space, a beacon of hope and defiance. The High Chancellor's power faltered as the Council's forces reeled from the loss. In the aftermath, peace talks began, not as a sign of weakness, but as recognition of a new era. Elena and her allies stood ready, knowing the fight had reshaped the galaxy. The Council's attempt to erase humanity had failed. What followed would be a future built on respect, cooperation, and the enduring strength of the human spirit. The echo of the shattered battle station still reverberated through the galaxy, signaling not just the defeat of a weapon, but the beginning of transformation. The Galactic Council, fractured and weary, faced a reality they could no longer deny. Humanity's spirit had not only survived, it had inspired change. On Earth, under a sky streaked with the colors of countless stars, Elena Vasquez stood at the forefront of a historic gathering. Representatives from human colonies, the Varathi, rebel council factions, and other species once silenced by the council's grip had come together in a grand hall designed to symbolize a new beginning. Elena's voice carried the weight of countless sacrifices and victories. "We fought for survival, but we have gained so much more. We have shown that no empire, no council, can thrive by ruling through fear and division." Around her, the assembly nodded in agreement. For the first time in centuries, a new galactic alliance was forming, one built on shared respect, mutual aid, and a commitment to peace. Ambassador Rylus, once a secret ally, now spoke openly. "The Council's old ways brought only suffering. Today, we choose a path of unity and hope. Together, We will rebuild the galaxy. The road ahead would be challenging. Wounds from war still fresh, distrust lingering among species, and the need to heal generations of pain. But the resolve was firm. Across the galaxy, human engineers and Varathi scientists worked side by side, creating technologies to restore damaged worlds and improve lives. Pilots trained to protect, not just conquer. Diplomats learned to listen, not just command. Jin Li, now a revered leader among the fleets, looked out at the stars from the bridge of his ship. "We were tested in the fires of war," he said softly. "But from those fires we forged something stronger, hope, courage, and a future worth fighting for." On a distant colony, children played under alien suns, their laughter a melody of promise. In quiet moments, veterans shared stories, not of battle alone, but of friendship and trust, born in the darkest hours. Elena stood beneath Earth's night sky, feeling the pulse of life around her. The Council's attempt to erase humanity had failed, but more importantly, it had awakened a unity that would never be forgotten. The galaxy was no longer a place of oppression and fear. It was a vast, vibrant community, ever-changing, ever-growing, and humanity was ready to take its place among the stars, not as conquerors, but as guardians of hope.